Yo, welcome to this explainer. Look, the crypto streets, they look flashy as hell right now, don't they? I mean, every single week it feels like some goofy new dog coin pops off. You've got dudes on TikTok screaming about going to the moon, and suddenly broke college kids think they're the next wolves of Wall Street. But actually, behind all the memes and that crazy viral hype, there's a brutal predatory setup. And the worst part? Most regular folks never see it coming until it's way too late. So today, we're pulling data directly from a massive documentary-style breakdown by Galvix Economics to unpack the dark reality of meme coins. We're going to expose exactly how everyday investors are walking straight into a digital trap.
Okay, so let's dive right into this. You really have to ask yourself a serious question. Who actually wins when a completely random coin with zero utility explodes online? Because meme coins, they aren't built like Bitcoin, right? Our source points out they have absolutely no serious tech behind them, zero real business model, and honestly, no long-term plan whatsoever. The entire game runs purely on hype, internet culture, and just raw speculation. So when your favorite influencers are out there hyping up a token named after a frog or some random cartoon character, who is actually cashing the check? Well, spoiler alert, it's usually not the guy working a 9 to 5 who just downloaded a crypto app. No, it's the people operating completely in the shadows.
You see, social media has basically turned investing into straight-up digital gambling. It's wild. On one side, you've got these TikTok creators flashing Lamborghinis, posting totally fake profit screenshots, and flexing luxury vacations, all while telling their desperate followers they've just found the next massive 1000x moonshot. But the actual blockchain reality, it is entirely different. Honestly, it's pretty grim. Studies show that the vast majority of meme coin traders lose money, and we're talking big losses. Folks are out here throwing their rent money, student loans, literally even their retirement funds into these tokens, just praying their life changes overnight. But instead of Lambos, the reality is developers vanishing into thin air, tokens plummeting to absolute zero, and just silent, crushing financial embarrassment.
Chapter 1. The Flashy Crypto Trap. Buying emotions, not fundamentals.
So what's really happening here is that we're moving away from buying fundamentals and we're jumping straight into buying emotions. I mean, think about it. When your barber, your cousin, your Uber driver, and your gym bro are all suddenly talking about the exact same random coin, it feels like destiny, right? It triggers massive FOMO, fear of missing out. But listen, that emotional vulnerability, that is exactly what fuels this entire meme coin ecosystem. It's like pouring gasoline on a wildfire. And that leads us to an absolutely crucial takeaway. Whoever pumps attention first usually wins the bag before everyone else gets wrecked. In a market that has literally no underlying value, attention is the only currency that matters. Look, meme coins absolutely thrive on this anti-establishment energy. People feel completely disconnected from traditional finance, they're getting crushed by inflation, weighed down by debt, and meme coins promise this fast rebellion, right? Financial freedom. But because there's no actual product there, whoever gets the eyeballs first entirely dictates the price. By the time that hype reaches the average retail investor, man, the trap is already set.
Now, to really understand how this trap is sprung, we need to talk a little crypto street slang. Enter the whales. These are your anonymous early buyers and the inside operators. Our source material explains that whales understand human psychology way, way better than your average investor. They know for a fact that retail traders will emotionally chase those big green candles on a price chart. So what do? Whales quietly load up on tokens when they're dirt cheap. Then they aggressively pump the prices, get the hashtags trending all over Twitter, and finally, they dump their massive holdings the absolute second that retail money floods into the market. It is straight up ruthless digital bait and switch hustling.
Chapter 2. Whales and Influencer Hustles. The Digital Bait and Switch.
All right, this is where the coordinated hustle really gets into high gear. You see, whales can't pull this off alone. They need a massive megaphone. So they get athletes, rappers, reality TV stars to promote these meme coins to fans who genuinely trust them. And they conveniently hide the fact that they just got handed a giant check to shill these super risky tokens. Which brings us to the actual heist playbook. It goes like this. Step 1, quiet accumulation. Insiders and whales secretly buy up massive percentages of the token supply before anyone else even knows the coin exists. Step 2, influencer hype. They pay social media personalities to spread excitement and basically manufacture virality. Step 3, retail flood. Inexperienced investors see those viral TikToks, they rush in super late and cause the price to absolutely explode. And finally, step 4, the dump. The whales and influencers aggressively sell their massive bags straight into that new retail liquidity. The momentum dies, panic spreads like wildfire, and prices crash violently, leaving regular folks just holding the bag.
So why do people keep falling for this, right? Well, as our source points out, it's because some dude turns $500 into 50 grand exactly one time, and suddenly he acts like a financial genius. Crypto Twitter operates exactly like a casino lobby. Everybody is out there loudly flexing their massive gains, but absolutely nobody is posting their losses. What you don't see are the thousands and thousands of people who quietly lose absolutely everything trying to copy those exact same risky trades. And the media? They just amplify this chaos. They run crazy headlines about random teenagers becoming millionaires overnight, which creates this massive toxic survivorship bias. The winners are incredibly loud, but the folks who get financially cooked, they just disappear into absolute shame.
Chapter 3: Rug Pulls and Dumps. When the liquidity vanishes. Okay, we've talked about the slow bleed of a pump and dump, but now we've got to look at the absolute darkest, most terrifying part of this whole ecosystem: the rug pull. According to our Galvix Economics source, this happens constantly. I mean, one minute, the whole Discord community is hyped, screaming diamond hands forever, right? And literally the next minute, the website completely disappears. The social accounts are totally deleted. And investors are left staring at wallets full of completely worthless tokens. Honestly, the craziest part is the speed of it all. Some of these rug pulls happen within mere hours of a coin even launching. Developers buy fake followers. They create this insane artificial excitement. And the second thousands of desperate people rush in to buy, boom, they yank the liquidity. The price immediately crashes 99%, and everyone just kind of realizes at the exact same time, they just got scammed.
There is some intense psychology playing out behind the math here too. A lot of retail investors look at a coin that's worth a tiny fraction of a single penny, and they think, wow, that is so cheap, I'm getting in early. And shady developers exploit this exact mindset constantly, because investors emotionally imagine the coin eventually reaching $1 someday. But guys, it is a mathematically unrealistic fantasy. Our source clearly explains that many of these meme coins print literal trillions of tokens. Just think about that. If a token with a supply in the trillions ever actually reached $1, its total valuation would literally exceed the entire global economy. It is mathematically impossible. There is no way. But inexperienced traders, they rarely bother to calculate market capitalization before just blindly aping into a project.
Chapter 4: The Psychology of FOMO, Weaponized Internet Humor.
All right, let's pivot from math to mental manipulation. Diamond hands forever. You see this spammed in literally every crypto Telegram group. Developers weaponize internet humor brilliantly to just lower your defenses. Investors stop treating these projects like serious financial decisions because the goofy mascots and the viral jokes make it feel, well, entertaining. But make no mistake, behind those jokes is some highly sophisticated psychological warfare. It sounds super loyal and inspiring, but financially, it is a toxic trap. Our source notes that a lot of these Telegram groups operate straight up like cults. The admins enforce this nonstop toxic positivity, and if you dare to ask a tough, realistic question, like asking about the developer wallets or locked liquidity, boom, you get muted, you get kicked. They label any kind of legitimate skepticism as FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They completely socially shame anyone who tries to take profits, intensely pressuring retail investors to hold on to collapsing assets just out of internet pride, until their accounts basically bleed into oblivion.
So what exactly are these psychological traps being used by these insiders? Let's run through them, because it's wild. First up, fake brand partnerships. They use intentionally misleading wording to create this sudden, completely unearned legitimacy. Next, complicated crypto jargon. They throw around buzzwords like hyperdeflationary mechanics just to confuse beginners into thinking the project is actually sophisticated tech. Then you've got artificial scarcity. Developers slap on countdown timers or run these super limited pre-sales to trigger instant panic buying. They do this specifically so you literally don't have time to do any rational research. And finally, the bots. AI-generated bots just relentlessly spamming rocket emojis and completely fake testimonials to make it look like there's this massive wave of organic excitement, when really, it's just a heavily manufactured campaign designed to trigger a desperate buying frenzy.
So the whole thing really comes down to this crucial showdown: smart money versus retail money. Look, a ton of regular investors genuinely believe they're early to a project, but the cold, hard truth is this. If you're discovering a coin through trending Twitter hashtags or some viral YouTube thumbnail, you are already late. Smart money enters completely quietly way before the hype. They sell ruthlessly during the peak of the viral excitement, and they have absolutely zero emotional attachment to the coin. Retail money, on the flip side, they ape in super late. They hold the bags out of this weird, misplaced internet loyalty, and they completely ignore having any sort of exit strategy. They totally obsess over the buying part, but they never, ever plan when to sell, ultimately allowing all their on-paper gains to just vanish into thin air.
Chapter 5, The Real Cost of Hype. The Hangover After the Pump. So what actually happens when that massive dopamine crash hits and the internet attention finally fades? The trading activity totally dries up, the online communities shrink down to nothing, and the price just violently collapses. And listen, this isn't just about some red numbers on a screen. There is an absolutely devastating real-world cost here that these influencers very conveniently ignore. Let's talk about the hidden aftermath because the consequences are genuinely chilling. First, you've got these devastating tax obligations. New investors might celebrate making giant gains, reinvest absolutely everything they made, and then the market crashes. Suddenly, they owe the government massive taxes on profits that have entirely disappeared. Second, severe mental health damage. The crypto market never closes, right? It's 24/7. Investors become obsessively addicted to checking charts at all hours, losing sleep, just living in the state of constant burning anxiety, which leads directly to our third point: broken relationships and tanking work performance. It takes over your life. And finally, leverage debt. Some traders literally use loans to chase these crazy gains, meaning when the inevitable crash happens, they don't just lose their life savings, they accumulate catastrophic, life-ruining debt. You know, a lot of investors genuinely believe that meme coins create these totally fair, democratized opportunities that you just can't get in traditional finance. But the truth? The illusion of decentralization is completely hiding centralized influence. This market is still entirely driven by human greed. The underlying technology might claim to be anti-corporate and super fair, but the wealth concentration in crypto remains incredibly extreme. Wallet data regularly proves that these tiny, tiny groups of anonymous insiders control absolutely massive percentages of the token supply. So retail traders jump in assuming they're playing in this fair, decentralized system, while the whales and the developers are quietly maintaining overwhelming financial power totally behind the scenes. Blockchain doesn't magically remove human greed, folks. It just changes how the manipulation operates.
And Galvix Economics drops an absolute massive truth bomb on this exact dynamic. They put it perfectly. The loudest voices usually ain't building wealth together. They're competing for exit liquidity. Think about that. When some dude on YouTube with a shocked face thumbnail tells you a random dog coin is going to go to 100x, he isn't your friend. He is actively looking for buyers. Whales heavily rely on emotional retail buyers to sustain these crazy inflated prices. They literally need fresh money entering the market continuously, so they have someone to dump their massive bags onto.
Which brings us to the absolute most important question you have to ask yourself before you just blindly ape into the next viral meme coin. Are you building actual wealth, or are you just providing exit liquidity for someone else's heist? Look, meme coins aren't automatically evil, but this explainer really shows just how predatory this whole ecosystem can become. The internet totally rewards confidence over caution, and it completely normalizes extreme, devastating financial volatility. So the very next time you see some goofy mascot and a bunch of rocket emojis floating around your feed, remember